Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. My name is Anya and today I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite baby names that I will not be using. Or maybe I will. Who knows? Eventually. Maybe. I don't think so. When I originally became pregnant with Sebastian back in 2016, no, I got pregnant with him in 2017 because he was born in November. But when I originally got pregnant with him, my husband and I started collecting our favorite list of names. We didn't have any idea up until that point any names. So we immediately started to just gather a list of names that we both liked. Now, we actually didn't decide on our babies' names, both of them, both Sebastian and Abigail, until they were born. But we did keep a running list of different names that we liked for one reason or another, and just kept a tally so that we could reference back to it when it was time to just sit down and decide. So that's the list that I'm going to be sharing with you right now. They're not in any particular order, and boys' names and girls' names are mixed up, but I will just go down the list and kind of explain the reasoning behind, if there is any, and go from there. So the first one on my list is Ella, and that's spelled E-L-L-A. I really like that name. I thought it was like a really nice kind of classic name. I do have a coworker, like years ago, did have a coworker that named her daughter Ella, and I thought it was so pretty, like majestic type of feel. But at the end of the day, we also felt like it was very simple and it was kind of like missing something, at least for us. So we didn't decide to go that route. The next one on my list is Karina. That's K-A-R-I-N-A. Now, I actually did have a friend named Karina, and I mean, most likely if I were to get back in contact with her, she would still be my friend. She's an awesome individual. I really liked her personality, and I think that her name matched her perfectly. She's actually Russian, or she is Russian, and yeah, so I didn't feel like my daughter's name was Karina, but I still really liked the name. Annabelle is the next one on my list, and I actually went to school with a girl named Annabelle. For some reason, I also like that name because it reminded me of like a princess, but I didn't get reminded of a princess whenever I was thinking about that Annabelle back in high school. I couldn't kind of like separate the two. So when it came down to actual decision day, I couldn't actually just, separate what my recollection was of this person that I knew named Annabelle and the picture that I had in my mind of what an Annabelle was like. So I didn't go the route of Annabelle, but I still really do love that name. Lisbeth is the next one. I think that Lisbeth is also something that for some reason, kind of triggers my mind to think, what's the rest of it? Kind of like, is it like short for something else? But it's also a very classic name, and I think of like an elegant woman when I think about that name. So I think that it's a very pretty name, and that's why it made the list, but it didn't make the cut, obviously. Savannah was definitely one that I put on this list. I haven't been telling you which ones I have versus my husband because I don't know. I have no idea. I don't remember. But I definitely know this one I added for sure. I thought Savannah was a really nice name, really elegant. That was definitely something that I wanted from the very beginning. Something classic, something elegant, something that, demands some type, not demands, but like, inspires some type of like respect. And I really liked that name. I thought it qualified with all of these different categories, but at the end of the day, I also wanted a name that I could say easily both in English and Spanish, because I have Hispanic family that is going to be calling my baby by her name regularly, and so I didn't want it to be a situation where they had to like learn how to say the kid's name. So I wanted something that would be great both in English and Spanish. I mean, with the both names that we chose, Sebastian and Abigail, they are very, very easy to say both in English and Spanish, and they don't sound butchered in either language. And so you know, with my name, it was very, very difficult. Well, it continues to be difficult whenever I say my name to people. Hi, my name is Ania, and people are Anaya, Ania, Anna. Like, let's just completely do without the I, because we don't really need it. Anna. So I wanted something that they wouldn't have to like explain over and over, no matter if they were in a Hispanic setting or in an American setting. With Savannah, I feel like it would have to be explained in Spanish. Like, what's your name? Savannah. It really, you know, didn't hit well with me. Adeline is the next one. I think Adeline would definitely be something that I would maybe use in the future if I did have other children, which I don't anticipate is going to happen. Adeline is definitely in line with all of those different characteristics that I mentioned earlier. You know, something that is classic, something that is elegant, something that is really just ladylike. You know, those associations in my mind with that specific word are really strong for some reason. So I definitely think that it's like a very angelic name as well. I think Adeline definitely is an awesome name. The next one is a little bit sentimental, and it's Leandra. So Leandra is actually my mom's middle name, and my mom passed away when I was very little. I was actually 2 days short of turning 5 years old, and her name was actually my name, Ania, and her middle name was Leandra. And I always thought, well, when I have a daughter, I would love to name her my mom's middle name. So I have her first name, and I would name my daughter her middle name. But the more and more I thought about it, the more I realized that it is a very strong name, and it really matched her well, like very well. She was a very strong woman. She was a woman of character. She was a woman that didn't let fear get in the way of her. She, you know, sprung forward on every challenge, and unfortunately she did have an untimely death. She was 34 years old when she passed away, but she definitely didn't let that get in the way of actually setting her legacy before then. Even until now, every single time I meet somebody that has had the opportunity to meet her and spend time with her and see her character and see her just carry herself out, tells me wonderful and amazing things about her personality, about all of the characteristics that she had. And my daughter would have been privileged to have that name, to be associated with that type of strength and woman. And to me, she doesn't have to have that name to have all of those characteristics, but we did decide not to go with that name because I did feel like it was definitely a very Hispanic name. And as I mentioned before, I definitely wanted something that was more neutral all around. I mean, we do live in the United States, and this is considered our country, so I definitely wanted something that was more neutral in nature and wasn't so marking of our heritage. That's going to be evident in the way she carries herself out, in the way she speaks, in the way she, you know, in all of her day-to-day. But I didn't want to brand her with a name that would automatically give away an ethnic background. I know that that might be extremely controversial because there's a whole group of people that are definitely pro, you know, wearing your flag on your forehead type of thing, while there's another group of people that are like, let's assimilate to where we are. And I happen to fall somewhere in between, but I do lean a little bit more towards this is where we are, we have to adapt. And, you know, while there are great things about the country that we came from, there is a reason why we are here. And let's just embrace the fact that this country has given us a home, that this country has given us an opportunity that the place that we came from has not given to us. And so I definitely want to make sure that my children have the opportunities that actually my father worked so hard to give me and my future and future generations of our family. All that to say, her name ended up not being my mom's middle name, but she will definitely hear the story. The next one on my list is actually my name, which is Anya. And everywhere I go, right after people ask me, how in the world do you say my name, they always say, oh, that's such a pretty name. And I'm not sure if that's because they feel kind of bad about not really knowing how to pronounce it or how to really spell it if I just say it. But it's always followed up with, that's such a unique name and that's such a nice name. And so I really wanted to maybe be able to offer that to her as well. And I do want to say that this was actually Santiago's pick. He actually did suggest it. It wasn't anything like super serious, like, oh yeah, I wouldn't like her to be called Anya. But he did suggest it. He said, hey, why don't we just go with your name? And I put it down on the list. So that's Ania, by the way, if you were wondering. The next one is Belén, and that is actually Bethlehem in English, but in Spanish is Belen, Belén. And I thought also that was very like angelic and majestic and really pretty, to like the sound of it is really pretty, and I thought it matched well with like a really pretty girl. And I did consider that for a while, but Santiago definitely swatted that out of the way very quickly and very early on. So I think my list is like naturally transitioning into boy names right now. The first one that I have here on the list is Dominic. And for some reason, whenever I think of the name Dominic, I always think about the Fast and the Furious, the movie. And of course, you know, the main character, Dominic. I thought that was a very strong name, and I actually have the meaning of it right here. It's belonging to God. I really like that meaning, and this was actually something that we did look up for every single name that we wanted and were considering, because we definitely didn't want to pick a good name that we thought was good but had a really like terrible meaning to it. So we did look at Dominic, and obviously that didn't win. Also, we considered Joseph. So my father's name is Jose, and for a really long time I did want to name our baby boy Jose, like my dad. We considered this, we went back and forth, my husband and I went back and forth on this. We ended up not doing it, again because of just branding our children in a, you know, with a Hispanic name, like unquestionably. But the reason why it's Joseph on this list is because we thought, well, why don't we name him Joseph if we can't go with Jose? Again, the whole like English and Spanish thing was definitely something that stood in my way. Like, in Spanish, what is it going to be called? Joseph? I really didn't enjoy that like direct translation, so that was thrown out. Regardless, I do think that I honor my dad in every other way I possibly can. I don't have to have a child named after him, but it was definitely originally an intention of mine. The next one is actually Antonio, and I don't have to say a lot about this one other than I really like the name. I thought it was a nice name, so it made it on the list. But you know, the same way as neutral as I felt about it as, oh, it's a nice name, I really didn't feel enough attachment to it to kind of fight for it, so it quickly went on the wayside. The next one is Esteban. I really do like that name. As a matter of fact, I think if I would have had another boy, I would have fought for this name with my husband, because you know, when we were going back and forth about different options for Sebastian, that was a top contender for me. So I thought it would have been really nice to have one Sebastian and the other one Esteban. I thought that was really nice. So if you're watching, Santiago, you're probably like, well, thank God that we actually had a girl, because I definitely don't think he would have gone for Esteban. The next one on my list is Nicolas, and Nicolas is actually Nicholas in Spanish, but it's also Santiago's middle name, so it's my husband's middle name. I really like that name. It's actually what I started calling my husband when I originally met him. I really do like that name. But when we were talking back and forth, my husband and I deciding why we would or wouldn't pick any of these names, we actually thought about how his parents named him that. And they probably sat around and they probably, you know, made a list of names themselves and picked the name that they wanted. And we thought, well, if they picked the name that they wanted, it's now our turn to pick the name that we want, not necessarily because of what they picked, but because it's the one that we enjoy. So we were like, you know, do we really like this name for our child, or should we look for one that it is our pick, our original like gut pick, and is not just because that was the one that your parents named you. So that one went away. We also had Lucas on our list, so that's Lucas, and that's actually in Spanish Lucas. I think that in English it's actually, I know in English it's Luke, but I know that there are some Lucas in English, and it would be easier either way. I thought that was a really nice, clean, very good name for a boy and a man, but it really wasn't a top contender when we were looking at our full-blown list. The next one on our list was Marco, and this was kind of like a warrior, you know, type of feeling that this gave us. Also, it gave us some, at least to me, it gave me some type of like Italian vibe. So it was nice, but definitely not something that I was willing to like go to bat for. I must have really liked Antonio because he's on my list twice. Now these last two names for some reason are at the end of my list, and they are girl names. So the first one is Joelle, that's Joelle, and I thought that was really nice and a very different play on the actual name. My sister's husband's name is actually Joel, or in English you would say Joel, 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 and in Spanish we call him Joel. In this version of the name though, it is a girl's name and it's spelled Joelle. I thought that was really unique, and I thought it was really nice for a girl. I also thought it was really like elegant and classic and timeless, Joelle. So this one is interesting because it was actually my husband who decided to include this one on the list. It is Leanne, and the reason why he thought about this one is that it's very similar to Leandra, which is the name that I told you was my mom's middle name. And he thought, you know, in order to kind of soften it up and make it a little bit more like English accepted, we would go with Leanne instead of Leandra. I originally liked it. It was something that, you know, I thought, well, that's really nice of you to kind of like try to figure out a different way to kind of like make it happen. But at the end of the day, number one, it was not the original names, and number two, it really wasn't something that I really like enjoyed or really loved or really felt drawn to. So I decided let's just not go with it. But it really was, you know, every single name on this list is actually one that we definitely did consider. If I definitely, you know, this is our short list. If I definitely felt like it was not going to be something that I would ever be able to call my child, it didn't even make it on this list. So this short list definitely was something that lived here on my phone with me until I had my children, and then we went down the list and said, okay, what matches with this child that we now have? And eventually the ones that did make it were Sebastian and, goodness gracious, I almost forgot my child's name. I still cannot remember it. Abigail, that's her name. So the last one on my list, which is a girl's name, is actually Juliana, and in English that would be Juliana. It is a very nice name, again, very strong, classic, elegant, feminine name, but not strong enough to beat out Abigail. Abigail, in English, Abigail, in Spanish, Abigail. I think that is the most beautiful name for my baby girl, and we picked it. It's actually Father's Joy, and in my mind it's, you know, it's kind of like I want her to be God's pride and joy. I want to raise her to make decisions, to live out her life in a way that brings glory to God, so honoring that meaning of her name. And then Sebastian's name is actually venerable or revered, and that I thought was Really, really cool. For my husband, that was actually what, you know, pushed him in the direction of actually agreeing to name him Sebastian. It definitely was something that we both really liked. That meaning was definitely in line with what we wanted for our child to be. And I think we made the right choice. So we are definitely in love with our 2 babies, and we are definitely very happy with the choices that we made for their names. I'm very happy to share with you the other list. If we ever do decide to go for another child, I definitely will look back at this list to pick a name, because it's definitely my top picks. So my sister also, if you are watching, next time, if there ever is a next time, most likely the name will come from this. So that's it, my list of names, my list of top baby names that currently I don't think I will be using, but maybe I will. Who knows? Share with me in the comment section below if any of these names are your favorite names, or even if there are names that you're like, oh no, definitely not, never will I ever name my child one of those names. Also, if you are pregnant and you're looking for ideas and you liked one of these ideas and are going to name your child one of these, definitely let me know. That would be super fun to know. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not already. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!